After my father passed, my mom gave me a box of his final wishes. Inside were instructions, letters, and proof that he'd left me his truck and savings. My brother showed up the next day with a forged will and said Dad changed his mind. Everything's mine now. When I brought it to court, my mom testified against me. Let him have it. You'll only waste it on your little projects. I haven't spoken to either of them since. I guess every story like this starts with a funeral. My dad's was small. Plain. Just how he wanted it. We buried him in the little cemetery near Lake Wichita under a tree he used to take me fishing by when I was a kid. I was the last one to leave the gravesite. I stood there after everyone else got in their cars, staring at the dirt like somehow if I just waited long enough, he'd come back. But he didn't. When I got home that night, my phone buzzed. Mom. She never called unless it was serious. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Come over tomorrow, she said, voice tight like she'd been crying for hours. There's something your father left for you. The next morning, I pulled into the driveway of the house I grew up in. It looked smaller somehow. Like it had shrunk without Dad there. Mom was waiting on the porch. She didn't hug me. She didn't even smile. Just handed me a beat-up cardboard box and said he wanted you to have this. Then she turned and went back inside. I sat on the steps, heart hammering, and lifted the lid. Inside were letters, thick envelopes with my name on them, and an old legal pad with Dad's blocky handwriting scrawled across the first page, for my son. My real legacy. Take care of the truck. Use the savings. Build something real. I believe in you. There was a set of keys taped to one of the letters, keys to his truck. And at the bottom, a bank statement showing an account with $82,497.32 in it. I just sat there, holding the papers, feeling like the floor had dropped out under me. Dad always believed in me even when no one else did. He was the only one who came to see the garage I rented to fix up old junkers. The only one who didn't laugh when I said I wanted to open a real shop someday. Tears blurred my vision. I pressed the keys to my chest and whispered, I won't let you down, Dad. The next day, Brett showed up. I didn't even hear him pull in. He slammed his car door like he owned the place and stomped up the driveway. Where's the box? He demanded. I blinked at him. What? The box. The instructions. Dad's final wishes. He sneered when he said it. Hand it over. I shook my head, confused. What are you talking about? He threw a manila folder down on the hood of my truck. Dad changed his will. Everything's mine now. Truck. Money. The house. All of it. My heart thudded painfully. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside was a clean, printed will, dated 3 weeks before Dad died, leaving everything to Brett. But the signature didn't look right. Dad's handwriting was always strong, neat. This signature was messy, like it had been scrawled by someone barely conscious. This is fake, I said quietly. Brett just shrugged. Good luck proving that. Mom's already on board. We'll get it through court. Save yourself the time. He walked back to his car like it was a done deal. I hired a lawyer the next morning. Not a big shot from Dallas or Austin. Just a local guy named Frank who looked like he lived off gas station coffee and bad sandwiches. He flipped through the fake will, grunted, and said, Yeah, this smells like week-old garbage. We'll fight it. He warned me, though, family court's messy. Blood runs thick, especially in a small town like this. I thought I understood what he meant. I didn't. Court was a nightmare. Brett came in wearing a suit that probably cost more than my truck. Mom sat next to him. I kept looking at her, waiting for her to glance my way. She never did. When it was her turn to testify, I thought maybe she'd tell the truth. Instead, she said my husband wanted Brett to have everything. He couldn't trust my other son. He wasted every opportunity he ever got. She said it cold. Flat. Like she was reading a grocery list. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even look at her. The judge asked if there was any evidence. Mom pulled out a folder, pictures from years ago of my first failed garage project, the broken-down cars I used to drag home. She made me sound like a drunk, a failure, a charity case. My knees almost buckled. When the judge ruled in Brett's favor, I didn't even hear it at first. I just stood there numb while my brother smirked at me across the room. I left town that night. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't pack much. Just grabbed the essentials, loaded up my few tools, and drove west until the gas light came on. I ended up in Roswell, New Mexico. Cheap rent. Lots of old cars rotting away in people's yards. Just waiting for someone to love them again. It was the perfect place to disappear. I spent the next 5 years clawing my way back. Started small. Fixing cars in my rented workshop, sleeping on a cot in the corner. Every dollar I made went back into the business. Word spread. People liked my work. Honest, clean, no shortcuts. By the 3rd year, I had 3 full-time employees. By the 5th, I had contracts with collectors across the Southwest. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. Respected. Free. Meanwhile, Brett's perfect life crumbled. Turns out, when you spend more than you make and bank everything on a 6-figure job, you're screwed when the oil bust hits. Lost his job. Wife left him. House went into foreclosure. All those shiny toys he bragged about? Repoed. Mom didn't fare much better. She'd gotten used to Brett's money. When it dried up, so did her comfort. They tried to call me. Left voicemails. Sent letters. I didn't answer a single one. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't just going to sit back and watch them lose everything. I was going to take it from them. It started with the house. Brett's mortgage company was about to foreclose, but they were desperate. I called them using a business name I'd set up years ago, Redline Restoration Holdings. Sounded harmless. Official. Nothing that would ever tie back to me. I offered to buy the loan, not the house, the loan. They agreed. Signed it over within a week. From there, I started digging. Found out Brett had also borrowed against Mom's house to invest in a startup that flopped hard. She had no idea, but the debt collectors sure did. I started picking off the pieces one by one. Bought out the medical bills she hadn't paid off. Bought a lien someone filed for a busted pipe she refused to fix. Bought everything they owed. It took months. Quiet, careful months. All done through third parties. No red flags. No warning signs. And then on a Thursday morning in early January, I sent them both notices. Your debts are now owned by Redline Holdings. You have 30 days to pay in full or vacate. The screaming started within hours. Brett showed up first. I knew he would. He always acted first and thought later. He stormed into my shop, red-faced and sweaty, yelling my name like he still had some kind of power over me. I didn't say a word. Just pointed to the door. He slammed his hand down on the counter. You bought my ing house? What the hell is wrong with you? I leaned forward slowly. You stole from me. Lied. Forged Dad's will. You and Mom. You left me with nothing. He shook his head like I was the crazy one. That was years ago, man. Grow up. You made your point. I stood there in silence. You don't get it, do you? I said finally. This is the point. Then came Mom. She didn't even come in person. She had the sheriff call me. Mrs. Castleman says she's being harassed. She says someone's trying to evict her from her family home. I calmly emailed over every document, every lien, every unpaid debt. The sheriff called back later and said, Jesus. She's screwed. 2 days later, she was banging on my door. She didn't look like the woman who testified against me. She looked tired. Broken. Years older than she should have. You really bought my debts? All of them? She asked, voice shaking. Yes. Why? I stared at her, then finally said, because you picked Brett. You lied about me. In court. You spat on Dad's wishes and told the judge I wasn't worth it. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I handed her the eviction notice. You have until the 31st. They both left town within a month. I didn't check where they went. Didn't care. But I kept the house. Both of them. Mom's place. I converted it into my main office. Left her flower garden untouched. Not out of mercy, out of symbolism. Brett's house? I gutted it. Rebuilt it from the ground up. Turned it into a training center for underprivileged youth. Kids like me who never got a chance. The truck? Dad's F-250, that was the final piece. I hunted it down, traced it through 2 owners, bought it back for more than it was worth. I restored it by hand. Every bolt. Every inch of paint. It sits outside my office now under a spotlight. I named the business after it, Old Man's Truck. And every day when I fire it up and take a slow drive through town, I remember where I came from. But the story's not done yet. There's still one more turn. One more surprise I didn't see coming. About 6 months after I evicted them both, I started getting letters. No return address. Just plain white envelopes. Always with my name written in neat, deliberate handwriting. The first one had no message. Just a photo. A picture of me standing outside my shop, taken from across the street. Second letter came a week later. This time, it was a close-up of my dad's gravestone. Then the third letter arrived. Inside was a USB stick. I almost tossed it in the trash. But curiosity won. I plugged it into an old laptop, scanned it first, no viruses. Just one file, a video. I clicked play. The screen went black for a moment. Then a shaky video began. Recorded on a phone, maybe. It was my mom, sitting on a back porch, talking to someone off camera. She looked tired, older. Her voice was low, raspy. I didn't want to do it, but Brett, he said he'd cut me off if I didn't testify against his brother. Said I'd lose everything. Pause. He forged it. The will. That was Brett. I told him not to, but I signed the affidavit anyway. I lied to the court. Silence. Then the camera jerked, and the screen went black. I sat there, jaw clenched, watching the replay over and over. It confirmed what I already knew, but hearing her admit it, seeing it, that reopened wounds I thought had healed. I traced the sender using the postmarks. Took me about 2 days and a couple favors from an old mechanic buddy who used to run with some shady types. The letters came from Flagstaff, Arizona. I drove there myself. Found her living in a dingy rental house behind a laundromat. When she opened the door and saw me, she flinched like she thought I'd hit her. She didn't say a word, just stepped aside and let me in. The place smelled like mildew and reheated coffee. Piles of unopened mail sat on the counter. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. "You sent the video?" I asked. She nodded. "Why now?" She sat down at the table, arms shaking. "Because he's dead." I blinked. "Brett?" She nodded again. "Overdose. Fentanyl. He'd been using for over a year." I didn't know. Not until it was too late. I stared at her for a long time. She started crying. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet, tired sobs that rattled in her chest. "He dragged us both down," she whispered. "I just didn't want to be alone, so I picked him. I thought maybe he'd come through, but he didn't. And now he's gone. I didn't feel anything. Not yet. It was like my emotions were stuck behind a locked door." "You want forgiveness?" I asked flatly. She looked up at me, tears streaming. "I want peace," she said. I stood up and left without saying another word. 2 days later, I had my lawyer file a motion to reopen Dad's probate case with new evidence. The video, the confession, the forged signature. Not to take back the money, it was too late for that. But I wanted the truth on record. For his name. For mine. The hearing was short. I sat in the back row of the dusty courthouse in Wichita Falls. Same place they humiliated me all those years ago. Same judge, even. But this time I had proof. The video. The affidavit my mother finally signed, admitting to the forgery. A handwriting expert who showed that Brett faked Dad's signature. I didn't come for money. I made that clear. I wasn't asking for a dime. All I wanted was to set the record straight. The judge stared at me from the bench, face unreadable, then said, "This court recognizes that the will admitted into probate 5 years ago was fraudulent. The rightful heir to Mr. Castleman's estate was his son. Let the record reflect that." He banged the gavel. That was it. It was over. I didn't cry, didn't smile. I just nodded, stood up, and walked out of that courtroom with my head high. Later that night, I stood at Dad's grave. The wind was cold and dry. The same tree from our fishing days rustled softly behind me. I placed a wrench, one of his old ones, from the garage we used to share, next to the headstone. "You were right," I said out loud. I built something real. I didn't waste it. I stayed there until the sun went down. As for Mom, I didn't forgive her. Not fully. Not yet. But I didn't destroy her either. I offered to buy her a small house, clean, safe, far from town. No strings. No contact. She took it. Said thank you in a letter. I didn't reply. She lives alone now. I hear she keeps to herself. I don't check in. She made her choices. Brett? He's gone. And the thing that hurts me most is knowing I almost ended up like him. Angry, bitter, self-righteous, entitled. I had my dark days. Days I wanted to tear everything down. Days I dreamed of revenge so cruel it scared even me. But I didn't become him. I fought. I built. I earned. And in the end, I didn't just get back what they stole. I became something better. Now, I live in the house I grew up in. The shop's still running bigger than ever. I've got 12 employees. 3 of them are kids I mentor. All of them know my story. They respect what I built. The truck sits out front. I drive it once a week, like clockwork. Some nights, I still hear my dad's voice in my head. Build something real. I did, and I buried the rest. For good.